Hi ladies, good afternoon. It is Sarah Shipton here from Scrapbooking with Sarah, and I'm coming live to you today on Tuesday, September 16 with this week's Technique Tuesday. And I am so excited to share this layout with you because I have to admit, I'm going to just call it now. I was a little challenged with this one. I'm not going to lie. This one certainly did challenge me a little bit in terms of working out my photo orientations, and I have to say I am super happy with how this particular layout turned out, and I cannot wait to share my tips with you today. We are creating a double page scrapbooking layout for this week's challenge. Miss Marion has joined us. Hi Marion, hi Kim, nice to see you ladies online today. We are creating a double page scrapbook layout. We are converting a single page layout into a double page layout. And I'm working with a pattern from the Reflections Scrapbook program, which is a old school pattern book that I have got on my shelf. And we are really enjoying working through our challenges. We are on page 29 of the book. If you've got a copy of this book at home, we are on page 29. If not, I have actually posted the pattern with the instructions and my layout in our Facebook group that I'm coming live to you today in. If you are watching this on a replay on my YouTube channel, head to Facebook, search for Scrapbooking with Sarah Shipton and send me a request to join my group if you would like to participate in our weekly scrapbooking challenges. I give away prizes every month for participants within Australia and for my customers, audience and community, not for Stampin' Up! Demonstrators, unfortunately, because Stampin' Up! Demonstrators have got lots of fantastic benefits and rewards that they can choose from themselves. So this week's layout, we are doing a bottom border with a base down the bottom here. So to recreate the layout, you have got, you will need 2 pages for your base pages. Now this could be cardstock or it could be designer series paper. You can see that I've used designer series paper here, and this is from the Peaceful Garden Sweet Collection. So I'll be sharing a little bit more in detail with you later in this video. And now when you go to actually do this particular assembly of your layout, for step 1, it does say to use one 12 by 12 inch piece of cardstock as your base. Now you can do that if you choose to. However, I have actually opted for designer series paper just to keep the weight of my scrapbook layout down. I've opted for a sheet of designer series paper, and as you know, our designer series paper is double-sided. So on one side you'll have like a background pattern, on the other side you'll have a beautiful textured pattern. And I'm actually, for the technique I'm teaching this week, I've just folded over the corner of my paper so you can see the back of my pattern here from this sheet of designer series paper. And you can see that I've got a 3.5 by 3.5 inch square stuck to the back of that paper. So I'm going to be sharing this little technique with you today. So if you choose to use plain cardstock, you can definitely do that. The great thing about using two-tone cardstock as your base pages is that your cardstock being two-tone, you'll have the original color. This is peach pie. So you'll have the original color on one side, and then you'll have a lighter color of peach pie on the other side there. Okay, so if you would prefer to use cardstock for your base page, when you fold your corner over, you're going to see the two-tone there, which is totally fine. I've opted for the designer series paper. So you'll need 2 sheets of that. You're also going to need, down the bottom here where we are making our bottom border, this piece at the back here, it says to cut at 4 inches. So you'll need 2 pieces of either designer series paper coordinating in the suite that you're working in, of course, or cardstock that you're going to cut at 4 inches of strip. I'm going to give you a little tip here. I've actually only cut that at 1/4 inch, okay? So I had some leftover paper from my Peaceful Days scrapbooking workshop kit, and I really love this dark. This is a Secret Sea with some little cloud cover stars on there. I had some leftover paper that I wanted to use in my Peaceful Days scrapbooking workshop kit, but I didn't have enough to cut 2 4-inch strips. So what I've done is I've cut 1/4 inch strips. I've cut 4 of those, and then I've used glitter paper, and I've actually cut my glitter paper through the middle here at 3.5 inches. Okay, now if you've got enough paper and you want to put paper on top of paper, that's fine. The 3.5-inch strip down the bottom is going to cover the majority of the 4-inch strip that you're going to stick underneath it. Okay, so if you want to save your paper, or you don't have enough of a particular pattern that you want to use, you could cut your 1/4 inch strips. You can cut this at 3.5, and you're going to stick this bottom piece, whether you cut it at 1/4 inches or at 4 inch. This is going to be half an inch up from the bottom of your page to create your bottom border. Okay, so I stuck my 1/4 inch strips down first, then I stuck my glitter paper on, and then I stuck my 1/4 inches above the top of that glitter paper. And unless I had told you that that's what I did, you would be none the wiser. So that's just a little paper saving tip there for you. You're also going to need, now with the photo orientation, it says to cut a piece of cardstock here at 8 by 8.5 inches, but this is going to depend on your photo orientation. So what I have opted for here, I've got 2 4 by 6 inch photos, okay, and then I've got some smaller photos which I've cut at 3 by 1/4 inches, which means my mats for these 2 photos here will need to be at 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and my mats for these 4 photos, I have cut them at 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, and I've used the white willow cardstock there. So I've mirror imaged my layout. I have popped these smaller photos. They're about 1/2 inch in, and then I've left 1/4 inches between these 2 here. So I've laid those out, and then I've got my 2 landscape 4 by 6 inch photos there. I've left about a little bit over 1/4 inch gap between these 2 photos, and probably that's probably in between 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch there on the outside. But in all honesty, I've kind of really just eyeballed my photo orientation here, and then I've just matched it as a mirror image. So your photo mats that you're going to cut down, the cardstock will coordinate with whatever series paper you're choosing to use, and then of course your photo mats, you're going to cut them depending on what size photos you're choosing to use. Now, you could have some portrait photos coming through here if you wish. You could have square photos here, 4 by 4 instead of 3 by 4. It's really up to you, but the great thing about this bottom border pattern is that once you've got this bottom border down first, which is what I did, I cut my paper and got my bottom border down first. I then cropped my photos down. So I looked at the photo, I decided which ones I wanted to keep 4 by 6, and then I cut some smaller photos down, and then I had a little bit of a play with laying that out. Okay, so it's going to depend on how many photos you've got that you want to scrapbook for your double page spread, and then of course the orientation of them. So I don't have many landscape photos these days. Most of my photos are portrait because I just use my iPhone camera, and typically I just point and shoot. So these photos were actually taken back in 2018, would you believe? I had printed them quite some time ago, and they've been sitting in my photo organizer, and I hadn't had any papers to really go with them, and the blues I thought just worked perfectly. These photos were taken on board the MSC Meraviglia. We did a cruise through the Mediterranean. Unfortunately, it was in February, so you can see here we had some little storm clouds, and the weather wasn't so great that day, so there was no one in the swimming pool. This was actually an aqua park, and it was in a polar theme. So I thought, how cool, with all the ice caps and the blues. We've got the polar bears, we've got the little, oh, that's not a little, well, it is little, but a whale here, little penguins. So how cute that I could actually use this paper suite for my polar aqua park scrapbook layout. I thought it turned out fantastic. And then last but by no means least, you're going to need to cut down 2 squares of, again, either cardstock or designer series paper at 3.5 by 3.5. And that's going to be the square bit of paper that you're going to stick onto the back of your base page to create this cute little folded corner. And I'm going to demonstrate this to you today. So what I opted to do here was, once I cut my cardstock down at 3.5 by 3.5, I stuck that on the back of my base page. I've embossed it first. So I've ran this bit of cardstock through the Peaceful Greenery 3D embossing folder. I did demonstrate this last week, but I'm going to show it to you again today. The reason being is that because it was cardstock and it was plain, I thought, oh, wouldn't it look nice just to emboss this corner here and just zhuzh it up a little bit, girls. If you're using some designer series paper, you wouldn't need to necessarily emboss it because the beautiful pattern is going to shine through. But because it was just plain old cardstock, I thought how fun to be able to run that through the embossing machine. And I've got these matching corners here now in the top left and the top right that have been embossed with the embossing folder. I folded those corners over. One of the really cool tips that it gives you in the pattern this week is actually using brads. And that is not something that I have worked with this week. And in fact, I don't even think Stampin' Up stock brads. I don't think we even sell them. And what I opted to do instead was, once I put my little folded corner down, I've stuck that down just with my adhesive, which I'm going to demonstrate to you today. And then I've just popped one of the little hues of blues flowers right on the corner there, which I thought looked super cute. And then I've used the hues of blues. Oh my gosh, that is a mouthful, girls, let me tell you. I've used these little flower gems and I've popped them on my title. So these are the party alphabet dies. I've cut my alphabet dies out in white willow. And just a tip with these dies, if you want to cut your strips of cardstock at 2.5 inches, so when you run that through the embossing machine, your letters, you're better off to have, because the height of your letters are all going to be the same, but the width of the letters will be a little different. So I actually cut my strips of paper at 2.5 inches, and then I align them up like that before I run them through my embossing folder. So that's in white willow to match my cardstock. Let me show you this gorgeous glitter paper as well, because the light is looking fabulous today, and I am going to share my September mini catalogue with you. If you were at my catalogue launch open house a couple of weeks ago, you would have seen this on display. So this particular glimmer, they call it glimmer paper. So a combination of glitter and shimmer. Now, these are not actual Stampin' Up colours as such. It does actually have them on the front of the label and in the catalogue as well. So you've got 3 colours. This is like a soft green. This one they have called blue. And this one they have called dark grey. But I kind of almost feel this is kind of like a secret sea or a darker version of the Misty Moonlight. Oh yes, probably more secret sea. So you actually get 2 sheets of each of the glimmer paper in the pack, and the pack retails for $18.50. So I opted for this lighter colour to use on my scrapbook layout, and I've ran that through the bottom border there. So I will show you the mini catalogue, but let's have a play with these folded corners. I'm going to grab my embossing, Stampin' Cut and embossing. Let's have a play with this. So we're going to pop that down here like so. And now I've got some paper here that I've cut earlier. I'm actually already starting to prep for my October workshops. So for the month of October and my workshops, I'm going to be working with the, oh my gosh, I think it's Floral Charm Scrapbooking Workshop Kit, but it coordinates with one of the current online exclusives, Lovely Florals. Lovely Florals and Floral Charm. One's a suite and one's a scrapbooking workshop kit. And I had some leftover papers from my cutting that I've done this morning. So I'm actually just using my leftover scraps. So for the purpose of this particular demonstration I'm sharing with you today, I want you to imagine that this leftover sheet of paper is actually my base of my 12 by 12 inch cardstock, 12 by 12 inch designer series paper. Okay, I didn't want to use a whole sheet of DSP today just to demonstrate this, because quite often when I do these Technique Tuesdays, whatever I am demonstrating with you ends up on a scrapbook layout later in the month. So I didn't want to use a whole sheet of designer series paper because I'm not sure what I'm going to be creating with that far in advance yet in October. So for the purpose of today, I'm just going to use my scraps. This is what I had left over from my cutting. So I've got this gorgeous floral paper here. This is peach pie, sorry, and this is Blackberry Bliss, just to give you a little sneak peek on some colours. And now I've got some cardstock here. Now I know I said that I want you to cut this in 3.5 by 3.5 for the purpose of my demonstration today, and the scraps cardstock that I had left over. This is only 3 by 3, but that's okay because you're not going to fold that corner back that much that you can't get away with using a smaller piece of paper. But if you haven't tried this technique before, go with the 3.5 by 3.5, just because you might decide to do your folded corner a little bit wider. You might decide to fold that corner over and bring it down more. It's purely a personal choice. For the purpose of this week's scrapbooking challenge, I folded it down until we got to the bit of the embossing folder. Let me grab that out for you. This is the Peaceful Greenery 3D embossing folder. So when I ran this through the embossing machine, you can see, let me pop some cardstock in here. What I did was I popped the corner of the cardstock up there like so, so it was covering just here. Now when I folded this corner of my designer series paper over, I folded it until this point here, so you didn't see this middle section of the embossing folder. All right, so give me a thumbs up or a love heart if you are with me and that makes sense to you. When I'm folding this corner back, all we are seeing is this section here of the embossed piece of cardstock. So I'm happy with how I've got that in my embossing folder. So let's run this bad boy through the embossing folder. I've got plate number 1 and plate number 4 for my 3D embossing folder. You're just reading the instructions on your plates. I'm putting my embossing folder in the middle of that there like so. And then we are going to run this through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So I ran this through 2 separate times, one for each corner. My suggestion to you would be for the left-hand corner, you want to run it through here, and then for the right-hand corner, you will want to align your cardstock over that side there like so, because I did make that mistake and I had to turn my bit of cardstock around for the right-hand corner, but it all worked out in terms of this being even and aligned with the other corner that I had already embossed. Okay, so let's pop that one out the way. And let me get my Stampin' Seal. Stampin' Seal Plus. Okay. And then we need our bit of floral paper. So you would note that when I ran it through the embossing machine then, I actually had it the darker side up. And that actually has embossed facing up this way. So I'm turning that over now for the lighter side. And in fact, that's what happened yesterday. I wanted the dark side to be the embossed side face up, and I had it the wrong way around. So just a little tip there for you, and I've actually failed to do that again today. A little tip there for you when you're running it through your embossing machine with this particular embossing folder. You're going to want your cardstock to be facing up for the color that you want. So I should have actually had it over that way. And if you're not sure, you can also do a test run first of all. So what I did here before I stuck that down, I've just put a little bit of adhesive. I'm just doing an L shape there. And then I'm going to turn my paper over, and then I'm going to stick this in the top of the corner like so. So I've only got that bit stuck down for now. And then when I fold this over, I'm just going to fold it here. So, oh, there we go. We want to make this straight. I'm just going to fold this here like so. So I'm covering up this section here that we're not going to see. Okay, so if I was to get my measurement, this is probably about 2 inches. So now that I've got that where I want it, I can just fold that back and put a little bit more adhesive on my pattern piece of paper. I can put a little bit more here as well, and then I can stick that down like so. And then I've got my folded corner here. Just going to pop a little bit of adhesive underneath that pattern piece of paper and then stick that down like so. Okay, and then if you've got a little gem or a little brad or a little flower, anything, you can pop that there, and it just makes it look like a cute little folded pocket corner for your scrapbook layout. I do love the idea of doing this with cardstock and then embossing that corner just to make that look pretty. If you don't use cardstock and use some pattern paper, you wouldn't necessarily need to emboss that because you're going to have that beautiful pattern come through from the designer series paper. And then you're going to do the same on the other side as well. So I absolutely love that. And you know what? You could even go to town and you could do the bottom corners as well. You just need to move this bottom border a little bit further up. But I think just having it at the top and the bottom looks just perfect. So the other really cool thing that I did as well, so last week I actually demonstrated running the embossing folder through with some cardstock, and then I fussy cut out the inside of the pattern, and I've actually journaled on top of this. So I've made this a little journal box just using my 0.4 black pen that I got from Stampin' Up. They come in a 3-pack. And I've just popped this up on some Stampin' Dimensionals. So you want to journal first before you stick that on with your Stampin' Dimensionals. It will be easier to do that as opposed to having your dimensionals on there first. So I actually shared that technique last week and I demonstrated that. And the one that I fussy cut out in the video, this is actually what I'm using on this week's layout here. So I love that I can demonstrate these techniques to you lovely ladies live, and then quite often, so you're probably going to see this pop up in another layout that I share with you later in October. So that was just a fun way, and I decided to put my journaling box here on the glitter paper after I put my title on, because that was just a really good space for it, and then I just kept that all nice and clean and neat and tidy up the top there as well. But you certainly could put some journaling strips through here. You could cut your white willow cardstock at 1/4 inch, 1/4 inches, or 3/8, and make some journaling strips just through the top here. The other thing that I would suggest, if you're using your party alphabet dies, lay your letters out first. It wasn't really until I took the photo that I realized I had the word park quite scrunched up, but polar, obviously I had a little bit more room here to spread out. And I started with aqua, and then I've kind of scrunched up park, and it did look a little noticeable in the photo. And now I think when you look at this angle from up onto the layout, it does look a little bit squished here. So my suggestion with these letters is just to lay them out first, be happy with, you know, where you've got them in terms of your placement. And then I've used some Stampin' Dimensionals just on the back of these letters here to pop them up off the glitter and just help lift that, make them pop a little bit better as well. So they were a couple of the other products that I've used today on my layout, just to give you some tips there. In terms of the mini catalogue, I've used this leftover starry paper to do these 1/4 inch strips. I've used the leftovers from the Peaceful Days Scrapbooking Workshop Kit. That's on pages 10 and 11. And then on pages 32 and 33, we've got the Peaceful Garden Suite collection. So these products coordinate with the Scrapbooking Workshop Kit. The Scrapbooking Workshop Kit is not part of the suite. They're two separate purchases, but they obviously all coordinate in terms of your colour palette here. I've got the basic beige. Did you girls notice a new colour today? The basic beige for the nail polish. So this is the embossing folder that I've used here. If you do decide to get the dies, there is a Peace on Earth bundle where you can get the stamp set on its own, and you can get the dies on their own, or you can buy them together as a bundle. This particular die here matches the inside of this pattern that doesn't get embossed on the Peaceful Greenery 3D embossing folder. Okay, so I haven't invested in these two items here. I got just the embossing folder. This is the glimmer paper that I shared with you earlier. You can buy the suite in its entirety, or you can buy all of these components individually. There's no discount if you get the suite in its entirety. The only discount you get is on the bundle, and that's if you purchase the stamp and the dies together. Okay. So that's the glimmer paper I shared with you earlier, the 3D embossing folder I've been demonstrating. These are the little hues of blues flowers. And then last week I showed you the beautiful silver edged ribbon in the Misty Moonlight. I haven't actually used that yet, but watch this space because I'm sure it's going to pop up somewhere. And I love that this particular suite, when you look at the Scrapbooking Workshop Kit, it's got a little bit of a white Christmas vibe to it. With the trees here, we've got obviously lots of snow. We've got a travel snow theme layout here as well. I really wanted to get these products individually and share some alternate layouts with you that weren't really kind of snow themed, even though I've just done like a polar aqua park. It suited the photos so well. You can see that these blues here are sharing sympathy, peace on earth, sentiments with the stamp set as well. You've got the doves in the papers and the florals as well. So just an alternate suite, which you could use the blues for Christmas if that's your vibe, and you're of faith with the beautiful doves as well, would look gorgeous. So that is the Peaceful Garden Suite collection. And then we have also a Scrapbooking from Scratch product range in the back, and again these products coordinate with that suite and also the Scrapbooking Workshop Kit. So I've used the designer series paper that you can get on its own for my layouts today. If you like the stickers, you can get the designer series paper with stickers. This is the same that come in the Scrapbooking Workshop Kit. And then these are the two-tone cardstocks I've used, the Misty Moonlight and also White Willow, which is not two-tone. And I've also used Cloud Cover as well for my little journal box there as well. So I hope that helps. You've got the 3 separate sections in the mini featuring both Peaceful Days / Peaceful Garden, scrapbooking products, card making products and paper crafting products, depending on what you like to create with. So I hope that's been super helpful for you today, ladies. I can't wait to see what you come up with this week. I'm looking forward to seeing how your folded corners turn out. Thank you to those that have watched live. I can see Sonia's popped in. Hi, Sonia. Hi, Mel. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week, ladies, and I can't wait to see what you come up with your layouts. Bye for now.